You're listening to Big World Network.
Just Kill Me, Season 4, Episode 3, I Invest in Platinum. Written and read by Wendy Herman. As I headed toward FBI headquarters, driving a small Civic that Jabba gave me, I couldn't help but think I'd been leaving my kids with some questionable characters lately. The funny thing was, I trusted the sketchy sitters more than my own husband. Understandably. I was making a right turn when suddenly a scrawny man with shoulder-length hair jumped out in front of the car. I screeched to a halt, and the man rolled up onto the hood, slamming into the windshield. I thrust the gear shift into park, and I leapt out of the driver's door, just as the man was sliding off the hood onto the ground. He moaned, but seemed unhurt. I grabbed his arm and helped him to his feet. "Are you all right?" He giggled as he steadied himself, and I wondered if he was just a little drunk, or high, or crazy. "Rip said you were intense, but I didn't think you'd run me over." I let go of his arm and put my hands on my hips. "You ran in front of me, and you—" I stopped scolding him as something occurred to me. "Rip? You know Rip?" "Of course I know Rip." He was brushing himself off now, as if I'd sent him hurtling into a sandbox or something. He was a little rough around the edges, but his clothes were clean and he smelled like Irish Spring. He looked like one of those men you see volunteering to help troubled youth after turning their own lives around. I hoped he was like one of those men. "Who are you?" He looked up at me, surprise filling his hazel eyes. "I'm Leon. Rip's never mentioned me?" I think even if Ty hadn't mentioned him, I might have lied just to make him feel better. "Leon? Of course he mentioned you. I just didn't expect— Well, you look different than how he described you. No offense." He beamed at me, not offended in the least. "Thanks to Jabba. He took me in, gave me a family again. I'm a new man." He was like one of those men, except that he was living with petty thieves, albeit petty thieves with an admirable moral code. I guess it was all about baby steps, and who the hell was I to judge? I'd actually killed people, after all. According to Ty, the worst thing this poor guy had ever done was eat the food people left on their plates at the outdoor cafe downtown. Suddenly a loud honk behind me made us both jump. I turned my head and realized the Civic was still blocking the road. "Get in, Leon. We're going to save Rip." He didn't hesitate and hopped around to the passenger door. "Woohoo! An assignment!" We soon sped away, but I was still drawing a blank on formulating a plan when we parked a block from headquarters. Leon had been chatting excitedly the whole drive, and I was really starting to like him. He was such an upbeat guy, it was hard not to. He really loved his new life as one of Jabba's brothers, and had been put in charge of the kitchen at the palace. Rip had never mentioned that Leon used to be a chef, or Leon was exaggerating, but I just wasn't getting that vibe from him. He was skinny, and I was always leery of cooks who didn't appear to eat. But then again, many of the famous ones were true foodies, and they were always thin. As he described the chicken piccata he'd made the other night, I was convinced he was telling the truth. But I was also trying to focus on how I was going to get into headquarters without being seen. Leon had stopped talking, and we sat in the car in silence for a moment. Then I sighed heavily and mumbled, "I really wish I had a platinum card." "You need a platinum card?" "It would make things easier, but—" I sighed again, sure he had no idea what I was talking about. "I don't know what to do." I gave Leon the highlights: dating Ty, brain implants, evil Trevor, flashbacks, dear old Dad helping Trevor escape, and why we were now sitting at safe distance from the place I believed Trevor was holding Ty, and Lars and Talia. If I could spring them all, great, but my priority was Ty. I finished out of breath and sighed a third time. "Any ideas?" "Well, Rip never actually let me help him with a mission before, but—" He scratched his chin and then ran his fingers through his sandy brown hair, letting it fall down to frame his fabulous cheekbones. If he was a lot less friendly and worked out just a little, he could have easily been a male model. "You know, I could get in there, pretend I was looking for Rip. I could tell them I saw you leaving town or something." That sounded like the beginning of a plan. I tried to expand it. "That's a good idea, but I still can't get in without my name being run through the system the second they scan my ID card. That is, if security at the entrance aren't already looking for me. At the very least, I'm sure Trevor made Ainsley flag my name. He'll know the second I try to get in. Ainsley, he said dreamily. I met her once when Director Pixley tried to kill me with caffeine. What? She is hauntingly beautiful, he finished. I said the same thing to Rip. I paused for a minute, letting myself get distracted by the possible romance between Leon and Ainsley. You should ask her out. Nah, she can do a lot better than me. Before I could argue, he pulled out a beat-up leather wallet. It reminded me of Ty's old wallet, before I'd gotten him one of those flexible stainless steel ones for his birthday, after he'd had his identity stolen a few years ago. Leon pulled out a shimmery credit card and held it out to me. Platinum card, was all he said. I just stared at it. Oh, Leon, that's sweet, but the card I was talking about is a special, top-secret GIC, he cut in. I just squinted at him in question. Government invisibility card, he explained. I widened my eyes as far as they would go, and my mouth fell open. I took the card and scrutinized it. It just said Platinum card on the front, and had an intricate barcode on the back. No name, no card number, no bank information, nothing. Could it be? I turned to Leon. This is really a... He nodded and smiled at me. How on earth... I have to keep some secrets. Ty never mentioned that you had one of these, I said, raising one eyebrow at him. He just grinned mysteriously and shrugged. He never asked. We ironed out the details of our plan and then left the car, heading for the headquarters building, but then separating to reach the front entrance from different sides. I let Leon go in first and start the distraction as I worked on disguising myself. I had Leon's army surplus jacket and a baseball hat I'd found in the car. I threw my hair up in a ponytail and put the hat on, hoping it didn't look too out of place on the head of a 40-something woman. It was a black Call of Duty 4 cap they gave away with the video game. I knew that because Levi had the same one. He'd get a good laugh out of his old mom wearing one, I was sure. Levi. My boys. I had to focus. If I screwed this up, they could be in danger for the rest of their lives. I took a deep breath and headed for the entrance. I could hear shouting and Leon trying to convince the security mandroids that he really did know Agent Ripley. I walked through the door and got in line behind 3 other people who were mumbling with annoyance that it was taking so long. Then Leon glanced back and looked at me. I gave him a minuscule nod and he turned back to the guard and said he had some information for Agent Douglas about his wife. That got the goon's attention. He was silent for a moment, contemplating what he should do. Then he took out a BlackBerry and sent a quick text. A near instantaneous response caused him to inhale deeply. He put the phone away and looked back at Leon, then at a young guard manning the wall like a newbie. Take this lowlife to see Agent Douglas. Leon feigned offense. Nice. You don't know me, dude. You don't know me, he yelled as the other guard pulled him toward the elevator by one arm. He caught my eye and winked, and I had to fight the grin trying to surface. The 3 people in front of me moved slowly but steadily through the security checkpoint, and then it was my turn. The guard barely looked at me as I ran the magic card Leon had given me through the scanner. He glanced up at me and I gave him a knowing smile. I had no idea what I was supposed to know, but luckily neither did he. He waved me through without another look. I kept my head down slightly so the baseball cap would conceal my face from the cameras that were everywhere, and decided to take the stairs instead of the elevator. I was alone in the stairwell as I ascended to the 4th floor. I was heading for Director Pixley's office. I didn't know where else to go. I'd have to take my chances that he wasn't part of all this mess somehow. I knew something was wrong when I got to the secure entrance, and it was unguarded. I stood there, staring at the military-grade security lock on the door, technology that was way above my head, and wondered, what if... I pulled out the platinum card and swiped it through the narrow slot on top of the lock mechanism. The door immediately buzzed and popped open a few inches. I hesitated, but there was no one in the second entry, so I stepped in, closing the door behind me, and swiped my new favorite thing again. Again, the door buzzed and popped open. A million thoughts ran through my head. I'd watched way too many conspiracy theory movies. This was too easy. Was it a trap? Was Trevor letting me get this far for some reason? Wait, but he didn't know I had a platinum card, and I wouldn't have gotten through the doors any other way, unless Leon was in on it too. But he was Ty's informant, and from what Ty told me, Leon had never much cared for Trevor. He thought he was too perfect, like a metrosexual robot. I chuckled quietly to myself. Leon had no idea how right he was. I took a deep breath and proceeded through the second door, scanning the hallway for agents ready to tase me, but again it was empty. I was starting to think there had been a nuclear war and no one told me. Where the hell is everyone? I slowly approached Pixley's door and stopped. The door was so thick I couldn't hear if anyone was inside. I would just have to push the call button and take my... Wait, there was a scanner slot on Pixley's lock, too. No way. Yes way. The door buzzed immediately after I ran my platinum card through and popped open. I couldn't help but smile. I was pretty awesome, if I did think so myself. My elation was short-lived, however. As soon as the door opened, I heard raised voices. I peeked in like a curious child and located Pixley sitting at his desk. He didn't look happy. He was arguing with someone who stood across from him, leaning forward and pounding his fist on the desk. It was Trevor. After 15 years, I would know the back of that head anywhere, and it sickened me. Suddenly, Trevor pulled his gun and pointed it at Pixley's head. The director immediately stood up, raised his hands in the air, and moved away from his desk. What the hell? Were they joking around, or was Trevor really threatening to shoot his boss? Pixley kept his hands up, trying to talk Trevor down. They slowly circled the desk until Trevor was next to the high-backed, white leather chair and sat down like he owned the place. He looked more ridiculous than Jabba did in his movie prop throne. "It's a bad idea, Douglas, that's all I'm saying. I'll have no part of it," Pixley said. "Then you won't mind federal prison." Just then, Trevor looked around Pixley and smiled at me. Crap. "Come on in, Freya." I was so wrapped up in what I was seeing and hearing, I'd forgotten I was supposed to be hiding. Rookie mistake. I pushed open the door and walked in confident and tall, and marched up to the desk, standing next to Pixley as I had addressed Trevor. "So you and dear old Dad were working together all along," I accused. Trevor chuckled. "Freya, I told you, I'm the good guy. Where's my dad? Where's Ty? And Talia? And Lars?" "We'll get to the traitors in a minute. First, we have a problem, and we need your help." "Excuse me? What the hell could you possibly want from me? You've already taken the past 15 years, plus years of my life, and pretended to be the father of my children. What else do you want? My kidney?" Freya, so dramatic," he patronized. "Have a seat." I didn't move and continued to glare at him. He nodded when he realized I was in no mood to be toyed with. "Okay, stand. We need your help finding your boyfriend." "What? He escaped?" I was ecstatic. "He had help." I studied his face for a second before it hit me. "Jerry?" "And a few others who will be dealt with, but you don't need to worry about that." "Why the hell would I help you?" "Because your father is unstable, and Rip is in danger."
You're listening to Big World Network.